Scientists' terrifying new discovery at Mariana Trench. In a billion of years, sunlight has not reached its bottom. Water below the freezing point is one phase and hot springs in the next. Pressure on the bones and a landscape that has been characterized as lunar-like below around 11,000 meters of sea level. Scientists can explore an undersea world full of mystery and enormous potential. This is the narrative of the deepest spot on the planet, Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench is one of the most dangerous locations on Earth. Water temperature is always below 0 degrees Celsius and is always blanketed in darkness. Extreme water pressure makes it nearly impossible for life as we know it to exist. The weight per square inch rises with depth. Under this pressure, any air-filled hole in the human body would collapse in the blink of an eye. Air-filled lungs would collapse and bones would smash. And that's not everything, so let's take a peek at a scientist's terrifying new discovery at the Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench, located in the western Pacific east of the Philippines and is approximately 124 miles or 200 kilometers east of the Mariana Islands, is a crescent-shaped scar in the Earth's crust that measures more than 1,500 miles or 2,550 kilometers long and 43 miles or 69 kilometers wide on average. The distance between the ocean's surface and the trench's deepest point, the Challenger Deep, which is roughly 200 miles or 322 kilometers southwest of the US territory of Guam, is about 7 miles or 11 kilometers. Mount Everest Peak would be more than a mile submerged if thrown into the Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench is a worldwide network of deep troughs that run across the ocean bottom. The Mariana Trench was initially explored in 1875 as part of the first worldwide oceanographic trip by the British ship HMS Challenger. Using a weighted sounding rope, the Challenger scientists measured a depth of 4,475 fathoms, approximately 5 miles or 8 kilometers. The British ship HMS Challenger 2 returned to the site in 1951 with an echo sounder and measured a depth of over 7 miles. The Mariana Trench is under US sovereignty because Guam is a US territory and the 15 Northern Mariana Islands are administered by a US Commonwealth. Former President George W. Bush designated the Mariana Trench Marine National Monument in 2009, creating a protected marine reserve for the distant island's roughly 195,000 square miles of seabed and seas. 21 undersea volcanoes in regions around 3 islands are also part of the monument. The Mariana Trench was formed by the process of subduction, which happens when 2 large slabs of oceanic crust known as tectonic plates meet. At a subduction zone, one piece of oceanic crust is pushed and dragged beneath another, sinking into the Earth's mantle, the layer beneath the crust. A deep trench arises above the lowering crust bend where the 2 pieces of crust join. In this scenario, the Pacific Ocean crust is bending beneath the Philippine crust. The Pacific crust is around 180 million years old where it enters the trench. The Philippine plate is younger and smaller than the Pacific plate. Despite its depth, the trench is not the closest location to the center of the Earth. The radius at the poles is roughly 16 miles or 25 kilometers shorter than the radius at the equator, because the globe bulges at the equator. As a result, areas of the Arctic Ocean's seafloor are closer to the center of the Earth than the Challenger Deep. On the floor, the crushing water pressure exceeds 8 tons per square inch. This is similar to having 50 jumbo planes heaped up on top of a person. Mariana Islands are formed by a series of volcanoes that rise above the ocean waves and reflect the crescent-shaped arc of the Mariana Trench. Many bizarre submarine volcanoes are scattered across the islands. For example, the Ifuku undersea volcano spews liquid carbon dioxide from hydrothermal vents that resemble chimneys. The liquid flowing out of these chimneys is 217 degrees Fahrenheit. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, scientists uncovered a pool of molten sulfur 1,345 feet below the ocean surface at the neighboring Daikuku undersea volcano, something seen nowhere else on Earth, NOAA. Because the Mariana Trench is the deepest portion of the ocean, it is certain to include marine species that humans have never seen. In these extreme settings, recent research missions have uncovered a remarkable diversity of species. According to Natasha Gallo, a doctorate student at Scripps Institution of Oceanography who reviewed video footage from director James Cameron's 2012 trip into the Mariana Trench, animals living in the deepest portions of the Mariana Trench thrive amid utter darkness and high pressure. Because the Mariana Trench is so far from shore, food is scarce. According to Gallo, terrestrial plant material seldom makes its way to the trench's bottom, and dead plankton descending from the top must drop thousands of feet to reach Challenger Deep. Instead, some microorganisms feed on substances like methane or sulfur, while others consume marine life lower on the food chain. Xenophyphores, amphipods, and tiny sea cucumbers, holothurians, are the three most frequent species at the Mariana Trench's bottom, according to Gallo. The single-celled Xenophyphores look like huge amoebas and devour by encircling and consuming their prey. Amphipods are bright shrimp-like scavengers discovered in deep-sea trenches. How they live there was a mystery, because amphipod shells break rapidly under the extreme pressures of the Mariana Trench. However, Japanese researchers discovered in 2019 that at least one species of Mariana Trench resident utilizes aluminum derived from salt water to strengthen up its shell. Scientists discovered microbial mats in the Serena Deep, a zone east of the Challenger Deep during Cameron's 2012 mission. These microbe clumps consume hydrogen and methane produced by chemical interactions between salt water and rocks. One of the region's top predators is a fish that appears weak. Scientists claimed in 2017 that they had acquired specimens of a strange organism known as the Mariana snailfish, which dwells at a depth of roughly 26,200 feet. The snailfish's little, pink scaleless body appears incapable of living in such a harsh environment, yet this fish is full of surprises. The species appears to be dominant in this ecology, diving deeper than any other fish and taking advantage of the lack of competition by swallowing up the abundant invertebrate food that inhabits the trench. As if the deepest known region of the Earth's ocean wasn't creepy enough, unexplained sounds resembling a half-muted roar and awful dubstep have been emanating from the Mariana Trench, leaving experts confused. But after months of conjecture, a team of Oregon State University researchers believes they found the source of noises, a new form of baleen whale cry that no one has ever heard before. The sounds were captured using passive acoustic ocean gliders, which can move autonomously for months at a time and dive to 1,000 meters. The five-part cry, dubbed the Western Pacific Biotwang, features deep groans as low as 38 Hz and a metallic finish as high as 8,000 Hz. The noises most closely resemble those made by dwarf minke whales on Australia's Great Barrier Reef, which are known as the Star Wars Call. This trench isn't perfect in every way. Unfortunately, the deep ocean has the ability to function as a sink for abandoned chemicals and waste. A research team led by experts at Newcastle University in the United Kingdom shown in a 2017 study published in the journal Nature Ecology and Evolution that human-made substances outlawed in the 1970s are still hiding in the deepest sections of the ocean. The researchers observed unusually high levels of persistent organic pollutants, BOPs, in the fatty tissues of amphipods collected from the Mariana Trenches. According to a research published in the journal Nature Ecology and Evolution, they included polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, and polybrominated diphenyl ethers, PBDEs, compounds routinely employed as electrical insulators and flame retardants. From the 1930s until the 1970s, when they were eventually prohibited, these BOPs were discharged into the environment through industrial mishaps and landfill leaks. In fact, the amphipods in the research possessed pollution levels comparable to those observed in the Suruga Bay, one of the Northwest Pacific's most contaminated industrial zones. Because BOPs cannot decompose naturally, they can be found at the bottom of the ocean in the form of polluted plastic trash and dead animals. The toxins are subsequently passed down the food chain from creature to creature, finally culminating in chemical concentrations significantly greater than surface-level contamination. The fact that we discovered such amazing amounts of these contaminants in one of the most isolated and inaccessible environments in the globe really drives home the long-term, destructive impact that humans is having on the planet. The Mariana Trench is also not immune to the plastic pollution that has infiltrated the world's waters. A report published in the journal Geochemical Perspectives in 2018 discovered that microplastics were disturbingly frequent in the Mariana Trench's lowest waters, showing that these plastics flow through the ocean to the concentrate at its deepest places. Deep ocean dredges and autonomous submarines have recently discovered unique species such as shrimp-like amphipods and odd, transparent critters known as holothurians. However, experts think that there are many new species still to be discovered, as well as numerous unresolved concerns regarding how creatures may live in these harsh environments. Microorganisms dwelling in the trenches are of special interest to scientists who believe they might lead to advancements in biomedicine and biotechnology. The microscopic inhabitants of the Mariana Trench may potentially give information on the origins of life on Earth. Some experts, like Patricia Fryer et al., of the University of Hawaii have theorized that serpentine mud volcanoes along ocean trenches may have given the ideal environment for our planet's first life forms. Geologists suggest that analyzing rocks from ocean trenches might also lead to a better understanding of the earthquake that caused the massive and destructive tsunamis witnessed along the Pacific Rim. So, what are your opinions on one of the ocean's deepest and most dangerous areas?